Hi there, this is PBLA, presented for AEDT 4130, Social Justice Issues, and it is presented by Brendan Oldman. So upon reaching an undecided conclusion as to the question, does where you're born matter, I was led right into research that represents where we are headed into weeks 3 and 4, and relative research for future weeks into this course. I started unraveling this question, and I looked at discrimination within hiring processes, particularly within North America, and seeing how this pertains inside the educational system. So social and self and discrimination. During week 2, we looked at social and self-identity and understanding how each learner in the program sees these identities. We saw common similarities with regards to education, faith, and interest, but it seems that the black and white identity traits in the social side varied quite a bit. We were able to see how each person portrays themselves socially and under what category: gender, race, class, education and beliefs, as well as sexual orientation. Looking into some of these characters, I wanted to see what kind of discrimination is apparent amongst them. Throughout my research, I came across several general assumptions and stories, and it led me into two particular instances that stood out as they were both relevant to education. A lesbian teacher at a Catholic school in British Columbia who had been refused the right to come back to work after the school learned of her sexual orientation. This news story gets to the right of the employer to simply weed out applicants based on their religion. Another instance, back in 2010, Globe and Mail released a story about teachers pretending to be Catholic in order to get a position within the Toronto Catholic District School Board. At the first instance, does the Catholic school have the right to be exempted from human rights prohibiting discrimination based on sexual orientation? A general assumption we have on screen: the more education you have, the more opportunities that may arise to increase your social identity as you are involved with more individuals. Can this be true? And do you think that the sections protects against religious-based school board who hire only teachers of that religion? We're going to quickly look here at a section of the Charter of Human Rights in Ontario as it pertains to these particular two sections. So under Section 5, under equal treatment with respect to employment, it is not infringed whereas a religious, philanthropic, educational, fraternal, or social institution or organization that is primarily engaged in serving the interest of persons identified by their race, ancestry, place of origin, color, ethnic origin, creed, sex, age, marital status, or disability, employs only or gives preference in employment to person similarities identified in the qualification that is reasonable and bona fide qualification because of the nature of employment. So it's basically saying that yes, in fact, if you are going to further the education or further the grounds for Catholic beliefs within the school, then they do have a right to be able to be selective within these particular situations, which I found to be really interesting. It basically just comes down, do they have the grounds to do stuff like that? And apparently they do, and we see it in other organizations as well. One question posed in the PBL process was, how much control do you have over your identity? And in today's world, judgments run rampant, especially in the social networks and before you even have spoken a word to someone. With advancements in technology, personal data of an individual can now be collected, accessed, properly or improperly, and disseminated more easily than ever before. There was a resulting increased concern in our society about the risk of unauthorized access to an individual's personal information. So you basically have to constantly worry about presentation and how you conduct yourself for fear of being categorized as that type of individual. We looked very closely at social and self-identity and how you identify within it. One that stood out to me that I wanted to make clear was that passions, experience, expertise can also shine through in your social portrait to the world. I guess if you try to answer the question, how much control do you have over your identity? I would say your true identity, the social and self, well, you don't have much control over it, especially if you are connected online. So who you are changes depending on the situation. True or not true? Well, I truly believe that it is situational, and although your true self-image might not change, your social self surely can. This following statement really sits well with me, as I had a tough time understanding how self and social are intertwined. This taken from a sociological approach to self-identity. Because the self emerges in social interaction within the context of a complex, organized, differentiated society, it has been argued that the self must be complex, organized, and differentiated as well, reflecting the dictum that self reflects society. And that was from Stryker 1980. Another part of that research was also, we often operate in two or more identities at a time, as in being both a friend and a colleague, which I'm sure not a lot of us thought about, but we do play off the self and social, especially in the workforce. So work environment versus your social life, public versus personal, family versus friends. So how can we convey to others our sense of our own identity? Well, be passionate, promote your experiences and your expertise, let your passion shine through who you are, and you can really tell a lot about someone based on their hobbies, ambition, and goals. Portray confidence, be proud of who you are and what you represent as an individual. Share your beliefs and don't be afraid to express who you are, and certainly share your experiences along the way. Finally, be careful online. This is something that I have taken not lightly over these past year and a half enrolling in the AEDT and finding out that the social networks of today have a big hold on your public image. Ensuring that stays true to who you are is important. So you basically want to ensure that wherever you are online, that you're conducting yourself in a manner that you would be if you were in a face-to-face. So finally, we come back to the question that was posed on week 1, does where you're born matter? And everywhere you have been, everything you have done, and anything you have shown is a representation of who you are. Does it all matter in the grand scheme of things? Of course it does. It's who you are. It's the story of your life. It is a generalization of you. But to what degree does this really matter? Should your day-to-day differ? Should your employment opportunities be less? Why is it that if you're a non-Catholic, you can't teach in the school board, but the school board in different areas of Ontario proudly will accept children for enrollment from all different walks of life? Are there grounds to discriminate based on any of these things? Certainly not. Does where you're born matter? Unfortunately, it does. As in today's society, generalizations are still rampant with regards to ethnic presentation and beliefs. Ethnicity is a source of social identity. Thank you very much for viewing this presentation, and the following slide is for references. And I'll see you back in Adobe Connect where we can further identify this presentation and some further questions. Thanks.